It's the Welcome to Cooperville podcast, episode number 68. Thankfully, because if it was the next podcast, this podcast wouldn't have happened. So we've just been stuck on 68 forever. We'll get to the reason behind that in just a bit. Before we get to things, though, got to thank our sponsors of the podcast, of course, Midwest Meals. Dan Beck, who was on the last episode. Fantastic listen if you haven't seen it. Of course, the videos are up on Twitch and on YouTube. But MidwestMeals.com, 13 rotating meals with everything you need to know on there about what you're putting in your body. Calorie count, all the macros, so your carbs and your fats and your protein. And they're good. They're delicious. So it kind of takes the stress out of either meal prep or I don't know what to cook tonight. You can just kind of go in your fridge and go, I'll have that because that's amazing. So get to MidwestMeals.com. Get your order in by midnight on Fridays. They ship out nationwide every Monday. You get your meals and you're good to go for the week. Use the promo code Cooper at checkout and get 10% off your first order at MidwestMeals.com. Valiant Gentlemen Hockey Club, that promo code is Cooperville15 for 15% off anything you would like. And they got just some cool stuff. I have a giant banner, which you can't see because I only have one camera angle. It's a low-budget show. But it says, reap what you sow, hard work. They're all about that hockey lifestyle. So check out ValiantGentlemen.com. Promo code Cooperville15 at checkout for 15% off your order. And Monster Energy. They hide behind me. I'm right there. See them? Monster Podcast. Can't say enough thanks out to Chris and the guys. They always keep plenty of Monster stocked in the fridge, outside in the garage. It's like beer fridge, Monster fridge. It's basically what my life is balanced on. But when you have early morning alarm clocks, several jobs, running a business, running, flipping tires, Shannon knows all about that. We'll talk about that in just a bit. You need to have a little extra kick, and Monster gets me through it. So hashtag Monster Podcast, and definitely check out their new thermogenics that they have. They are fantastic. So you're burning fat while you're drinking them. And they have flavors that you're not going to find anywhere else, including that jalapeno strawberry, which is my personal favorite. So hashtag Monster Podcast, proud sponsors of the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. Without further ado, Mad Shannon Seyforth is on the podcast finally. Hi, how you doing?
Yay. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, I've been trying to get you on for a while because you have we've known each other for probably, I don't know, 5-8 years, just from concerts and stuff. And we'll get to kind of your travels in the concert world, which I know you're probably just fiending for right now. Like maybe you need a live show in your life a little bit. But you know, fitness has always been a huge part of who you are since I've known you. And then I know in the last not too long, you made the leap into business ownership. So there's an entrepreneurial side of it. So it really is all things that I'm into as well. So welcome to the show. And I'm glad you're on episode 68 and not the following number, which you told me if you were that, you would have wanted 70 or something.
I would have needed to get pushed. I'd have been a little uncomfortable.
I can't be
explaining that to people.
Yeah. We don't need to get into that. No. But you have, the fitness thing, and I want to get kind of back to where that all started because, you know, it's one of those things that people who do it for a long time, like it feels like it has to be, I want to say ingrained at a young age, but something has to be like that puts it into your daily, like that makes it become part of who you are as a human being. It's not just, yeah, you know, I do this thing, or maybe, you know, it's marathon running, you do that once a year, but when it's like an everyday new things, learning, growing, like where does that start to become part of who you are as a human?
Right. So I was never an athlete in school at all. I was a farm girl. So I went home and did, you know, the farm chores and everything. And so my workouts were, you know, throwing hay bales around, shoveling manure and all that. So my true story of fitness starts when I'm at the good old age of 21 years old and I've packed on a bunch of weight and I can't buy bigger pants anymore and keep wearing the same shirts. So I would go at night and I would walk and I would run so nobody would see me. And one day I decided I'm going to go to this gym, this brand new gym in town, and check it out. So I started going, you know, it's kind of like a new hangout spot for me with friends, and didn't really know what I was doing. And one day I came in and they had a program to like lose weight, learn how to work out, get a trainer. So I did that and I lost 30 pounds. And then I heard the music pumping upstairs, the aerobics classes going on. So I told my friend, I'm like, we're going to go check this out. We got to do this class. So we went to the class and we got done and she's like, you're effing nuts. I'm not doing that ever again. So I continued with it, and my favorite instructor, she was leaving. She was going to another gym to work, and I was like, it was one of those classes where you get done and you couldn't walk.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I'd be like crawling up the stairs when I got home. So I said to her, I'm like, well, who's going to teach this class? And she's like, well, you are. I'm like, oh, I am not getting up in front of people. That is not happening. So I did, and I taught floor and step aerobics and body pump, and then the whole spin thing. The cycling bikes were coming out. I learned that, and it just kind of kept evolving. And then I moved to the Y and got there, and she's like, "You're going to teach a BOSU class," and I'm like, "What in the hell is a BOSU?" And she's like, "Well, here's your VHS tape. Learn how to do it." So I did, and I just the lady that I really liked, her name was Vicky. She had a class at the Y, and I loved it, and it just kind of evolved. I kept going to her classes, and she was personal trainer. So I could say in a nutshell, she's probably somebody that I really idolized, because she did fitness competitions and things like that. So, you kind of go through your 20s, you got a lot going on, and I'm probably really not that serious. I mean, I'm making a habit of it, but I'm oversleeping, and
Right.
so then I decide I'm going to become a personal trainer there and pick up some hours and, do it before work, do it after work. So it started to become a part of my life. And I liked working with people and having people feel better about themselves, because it took me back to when I hired a personal trainer, and I needed that in my life. So I met a girl that had done a bodybuilding show, and that transpired out of there. And I think that's probably at the point in my life when I was in my 30s, is where it kicked in. Like, I get up every morning early, I work out, it's a big part of my life, and it just continued to grow from there.
I think that's, when you can take from your personal experience and kind of how you, and I love because it feels like a lot of people have that feeling about going to the gym for the first time.
Yeah.
I need to before I go to the gym and start working out, like I need to work out.
Right.
I gotta walk and run and maybe throw some things around. There's always that kind of, I want to not walk into a gym and look like I have no idea
What I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you see people like that post videos on social media about people that have no idea what they're doing on a piece of gym equipment. So you don't want to be that person that is forever mortalized in a YouTube clip, not knowing how to work the row machine or something, or doing it completely wrong. But to be able to have that, that personal journey that you went on, and have it evolve over the course of a long period of time, and then it naturally becomes part of who you are, and then you have that give back aspect too. Like, no, I want to. The reason I do this is not completely for myself. It's because I was at a point where someone was there to help me out, and they brought me and introduced me into this whole new world. This world has become my world, and now I want to spread this this goodness with others that are out there. I think it's a fantastic story about going from walking at night and no one could see you to gym to eventually competitions and things like that, and then now where you are now, which we'll get to here in a bit. But is there and there isn't and if there is, you can tell me, because I'd like to know it.
Okay.
Like routine and habit, I think when you start to do things on a daily basis, it becomes kind of the part of the fabric of your being.
Right.
But there are days, and for me, maybe they're more often than there are not days like this, where you get up and the alarm clock goes off and you're like, man, maybe today is the day that I don't get after it. Today, maybe today I sleep in a little bit. I could, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll work out later. I always love that one. My mind tells me that. I'm like, no, you won't.
No.
But do you have, I mean, when you have, because I imagine you have those days too, where it's just like, I'm just not feeling it today. Is there something that you either tell yourself, or that you kind of have a trick of the trade to be like, I'm just going to make myself go and do it? Do you have something that gets you kind of through those days where you're not fully engaged in it?
Feeling it. I'm going to have to say, like, I don't have a lot of those, and I'm a very routine person. So when I don't get, we'll get to the whole transition to my own business, but when I would have to go to a full-time job, it was like, if you're not going to get up and do it now, when are you going to do it? So you have to do it. And do you really want to do it at 5:00 at night? And I think the biggest thing I've learned is my body needs rest too.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I can go for 6, 7 days straight, but it's like your body is going to tell you you need to rest. And if it's that day, then it's that day. And there's been times, when we went out, we had a little party or something, and it's like, well, I got to get up and I got a 10-mile run.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's just not going to happen today. And
Right.
tomorrow's a whole new day. You're going to get on and you're going to go and you're going to get it done.
Yeah. So you kind of set yourself up even, I want to say before you go to bed, but you're aware uh, the day before, or even, I'm not sure how far you plan kind of your routine, but you're aware even if it's like a Thursday, like throw a Thursday night, there's like a happy hour thing. But that the next day there's, however you handle that Thursday night happy hour will be paid in full the next morning when you have to get up, because you're going to get out and do it. But you have a routine in place.
I do. My Sundays are my planning day, and it's
Mm.
something I've done for a really long time where all my clients are taken care of. My meals are planned for the week. I have a little notebook. I write all my workouts in for the week, so I know, like, I can give you an example for this week. So Monday, I wanted to strength train. Tuesday, I wanted to run. And I'm like, oh, I'll do legs too. Well, I was like, I can't do legs. I just killed my legs on a run.
Right.
So I'm looking at that notebook going, uh-oh, now I have to, and that kind of, I get a little weird where I'm like, oh, I got to change that now. I'm going to miss it, but it's okay. I'm still going to be all right to do it. So it's a little bit of that OCD that I have, or that craziness, that it's okay to skip a day or not do legs today.
Mm-hmm. Now, you did mention the transition from going from being a personal trainer that, either at morning class or an afternoon class after, having a full-time job during the week. What is that process like, going and making that decision? I'm assuming it's not one that's made overnight. It's made over the course of a period of time. But what kind of fuels that, I think I can do this and this can be my thing? Because obviously it's your passion. I mean, if your Sundays are planned, are planned as a planning day.
Yeah.
And you strategically schedule your week and how things look, and you can't do this because of this, which makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the day that you go, I want my passion, the thing that I love doing and I enjoy doing, and that is a part of the fabric of who I am, to be my career?
My full-time gig.
Mm.
So actually it'll be 3 years in November 18th, actually. I was in sales at my job that I had been at for 7 years. I actually was there for a full 9 years.
Mm.
But I was sitting in a sales meeting and I was like, I'm looking around the room. I'm like, I ain't gonna be here in 6 months. I'm just done. Like, I just don't like this.
Mm.
And the CEO pulled me aside. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, either you're going to have to let me go or we're going to have to figure something out. He's like, I got a perfect position for you. It's going to be like project management. You're going to work with the customers. I'm like, it's a desk job. Like, I'm not going to sit in a desk forever.
Right.
So he's like, think about it over the weekend. So I came home. It was a Friday. I came home. Saturday morning, I woke up and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm tired of saying one day, or I wish, or I wonder. I'm going to do it. So I text my husband. I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work my ass off and I'm going to make it happen. And one day I'm going to do this all the time. So, I mean, I think for me, I probably could have made the leap earlier, but for 2 years I worked full time, and then my business was full time too. So that's over 80 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And just finally, I knew I was going to leave this year, but I didn't know when. And I felt bad. Like, oh, I don't want to leave. And so I went to my boss and said, well, because I already went down to 29 hours. I mean, who can go to their full-time job and say, kind of want to go part-time because my business is taking off the ground? And they fully supported it. They're like, we'll give you 29 hours. So when I sat down with him, he's like, I'm taking my boss hat off. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, you do what you want to do. And I'm like, well, I just, I'm not sure. And he's like, if everybody on your teams, your husband's good with it, everybody else is around you, then what are you waiting for? Like, give your notice and just go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I quit. I didn't even know how to quit, because I'm like, it was a great company. They treated me good. And I liked all the people I worked with. That was probably the hardest part. But it felt good. Like, a weight had lifted. And then February 6th, that was my last day there, and I walked out, and I remember like Monday then driving to the gym, I'm like, this feels really weird. Like I only have to work a couple hours. I had a couple hours off. I work a couple hours.
Mm.
So that's how it happened. Just that, I needed to make a change. And I kept saying, I'm tired of saying, oh, I wish, or I wonder. And then doing it part-time, it's like, I'm not going to sit back and just let it happen. I'm going to make it a legit business, register it in a name. I'm gonna, make it happen. And if it doesn't work, it's not going to work. And I guess I never had a plan B. I was like, this is just going to work.
Right. And there's a lot to be said about that, not having a plan B, especially when you launch into your own business, because if you have that plan B, I think you think about it a lot. If something is not working out quite the way you want it, it's not as smooth. I mean, it's never going to be as smooth as, maybe it looks, or maybe it sounds to
Right.
others. Like, oh, you have your own business, that's got to be great. And like, no, actually, it's not fantastic. I mean, it's great to get to do what you want to do, but the responsibility and that, I mean, you have to be all things to, especially you working hands-on with people
Right.
that you do, but it's a lot to have that plan B, because you always feel like you're never fully engaged with what you're doing, because you're like, well, you're never willing to take that risk or add that one element, because you're like, man, I got this plan B though, and this plan B is probably really super safe. Like, you could go back into sales, you get back into the workforce and do 8 to 5, and like that's still an option. But when you don't have that fallback, you're just kind of like, well, I guess we're falling forward.
We're doing it.
That momentum, I think.
Exactly.
Really.
And it's, you think about it, I mean, I have to be happy and chipper. And
Mhm.
even if I'm having a shitty day, I gotta still put that happy face on. And, that's what I've had to teach myself too, is like, I gotta leave my own problems at the door, because this is my business and I'm the face of it. I'm the only face of it.
Yeah. The boss applesauce.
Right.
And that's an element that I think even in a business as specific as yours is, when you talk about that health and fitness element of it, because you do have to be motivational. You have to be kind of the light that people see and say, this is an aspiration. You can't come in and be super down or pissed off or upset or crabby, because that energy, especially when you're teaching people, you're helping people to grow and to be better, that energy just like totally connects with those individuals, and you're just like, well, now we're just sad. Now everybody's just sad. Not going to get anything done.
She's kind of lame. We don't like
Everybody's going to be, maybe she won't work us as hard, but then you end up working them twice as hard, and it's just like, oh, this, man, I'm done. But no, it's that making that decision though. I think, I think that there's a lot of people out there that have a passion, something that they're like super duper into, and maybe like nobody else even knows about it, like because they like, well, nobody's gonna think this is like a cool thing to do, or nobody's gonna think that I of all people could pull this off. So they kind of keep this thing that would make them the happiest in the world as far as a career and a piece of their puzzle. They kind of keep it in the box, and they look at it once in a while, and then maybe they do it on the weekends a little bit. But making that decision, that leap to say, I'm going to leave what was plan A.
Right.
Plan A was going along, swimmingly, and obviously we had a great company to work for.
Yeah.
But to make that decision to really grab life by the horns and be like, this is what I'm going to do, and knowing you have to be super happy every day, knowing you have to get up and get after it. You have to get up and get after it yourself before you get up and get after it for them. You're double dipping.
I know. It's, and I work for my clients. I don't say, I don't start till 8 and I'm done at 5. I'm, 4 a.m. we're out the door, we're going, and 7 o'clock at night, I'm leaving, done for the day. I get to do what I love to do. And when you and I had met for coffee, I told you, like, I watched you getting into your own stuff. It's like, I sat back and watched all these other people and was like, what, how did they do it? And why aren't they scared? And one of the girls I worked with, we had talked about it a lot, about me doing this for years. And she's just like, you just got to take the jump, just jump. I'm like, I don't know. That's, you're relying on everybody else, but I did it. And here I am today.
No, I think you have to be able to, when you take that leap, that jump, that major life altering change, especially when you talk about, and not, there's a ton of people that own small businesses. There's a ton of great entrepreneurs out there. But the fact is that the majority of our area, the state, the country, it is built into a kind of the box of either the 8 to 5 or whatever. You go to your job and you have your boss and you have your hours.
Yeah.
When you have to be, so I think that the idea of owning a business, like, it sounds really cool, and then it sounds like, and then it's super scary at the same time. And you've obviously witnessed this and realized this, but when you're in charge of everything,
Yeah.
things that you didn't think of,
Right.
you're like, oh, like, and now, especially when a lot of, I know for you and I, our marketing is done in a social media world,
Yep.
and understanding the importance of that content. And you're like, well, I'll just have my, like, you don't have a social media person to do that. Like that, you are the social media person as well.
Right.
And the accountant and HR and, the tax person, you're all of the things.
Yep.
And so it sounds overwhelming, and there is some fear, I think, when you take that first jump. But and I can feel it from you. And I think when we had that meeting about over coffee, is that, yeah, that's the stuff, but you wouldn't do anything else. Like, you don't want to do anything else right now. Like, there's not a, like,
no.
Yeah, this part isn't great about it, but it has to be done.
Right.
And you get to go do the fun stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Work-life balance. Yeah. And I just, I just never, I don't ever want to have to go sit in a chair at a desk. I just can't. Oh, imagine. I will figure something out if this, falls apart. And I don't even want to think that. I don't think like that.
Right.
Like, don't think negative and it won't happen. Just be positive about it.
I had a brief moment of time. I think it took about 3 days after I got out of radio. And I was like, I really could just go back. I mean, 20 years. I did radio for 20 years, from the time I was a teenager to the time I was like touching 40 with a pole. Like, I can feel you. And
welcome to the club.
There was a time. I know it's good, great to be here. And we'll talk about that too, because it's not as bad as I think it sounded like it was back in. I think when we were growing up, remember going to, like, there was birthdays for 40-year-old people, and it was like a funeral. Like, why is everybody wearing black? I don't understand. Like, is she dying? No, she's 40. Well,
over the hill.
Not dying. Oh yeah, over the hill, balloons and stuff. See, they didn't like that anymore.
No.
It doesn't feel like it. But I think I had like 3 days where I was like, I get another job in radio that requires, a move. And I guess it's what I do. And then, like, after 3 days, I was kind of over it. Like, well, it's going back to the same thing. And as much as I loved my career and as much fun as I had, as many things as I was able to create and do, going back and knowing how it works, and it works that way everywhere, I'm like,
yeah,
sounds like another 20 years of
right. How was work today? Yeah.
It's like, you have to wait for the fun stuff. You have to wait for, like, Rockfest to come up, or like a concert, or in like an event. You're like, well, that was really fun, and I gotta go back and do it again.
I gotta go back to work. When you become a totally different person at the festivals, you're like, you don't know me. No,
see me?
Exactly.
You know who I am. But no, I think to be able to find something that, like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to get up and do, and even the shitty parts that maybe you're not super excited about doing. I've talked to people who, like, really, they're not, like, I'm just not, the social media thing is just, it's tough. And I get that, but when you start to, like, understand that you're in control of it, this is your message. If anybody's an expert on what you're doing, it's you, and you get to portray your business however you want to. There's something really freeing about that. I think then you can really get the clients that you want to have in, your circle, and expand. So I think that being in control has been fantastic. Going back to working for a boss sounds wretched.
I know. With the social media, one of our things, and you probably see this all over you do see it all over my Instagram, but Facebook too, is I'm a big picture taker. Like, we're doing a group picture, we're going to say something funny. That's how I promote my business, is so people see, hey, Cooper's there. I didn't know he did that. Well, I can relate to him. And one of the other things we did, I have a really good, and I'm not just saying it because they're my clients. I do have a really good, I just lost my earbud.
Thanks for all of us.
Really good clientele where with my website, I had a girl, she does it for a living, and then she was going on to school to like learn more. So she's been a big
Mhm.
help with getting the website up and going. And she throws ideas at me. She's younger. She's like, hey, we should do a blog and you should do a YouTube. And I'm like, I mean, these are all things I'm like, okay, but I'm a one-man shop. So if you guys
Right.
want to do this, I'm going to need your help. So
Mhm.
with the website, I had every single one of my clients tell their story, like meet Chris,
Mhm.
and then you just tell about your journey. And people, it was crazy. Like it just opened the door. People were like, wow, I read that story and I put myself in their shoes.
Right.
So I'm not scared anymore. It's that fear of walking through the door. That's the hardest part. Like just walk through the door and the rest is going to be the easy part. It's a cakewalk after that.
Yeah. Do you? I know you talked about the trainer at the Y that
Hmm.
inspired you, and obviously your trainer when you first started your journey back in your 20s. In the business world, in the kind of the realm of entrepreneurship and the ways and means and stuff, has there been people that you have gravitated towards or that have offered you advice? 'Cause I think that's the one eye-opening thing that I realized,
Yeah.
because you kind of feel like you're maybe going into it kind of blind and not really knowing what you're doing.
What to do? Oh
But
yeah.
when you start to reach out to people that are kind of in the same, paddling the same canoe, you
Hmm.
are like, there's a lot of willingness to, I think, offer advice and help and suggestion. Do you have people that you've gravitated
Definitely.
towards that have helped you out?
Yeah, when I first made this decision to do this, I had like a whole bunch of vacation time I had to burn
Mm.
at the company I was at. So I took the whole week and I'm like, I'm gonna legit meet with people, have conversations. So there was two girls in town in Chippewa here. It was Excite Wellness. It's where Lake Wissota Chiropractic is now. So,
Mm.
and I knew Rachel and Nicole for a long time and met with them, and they were just good about like, okay, so you should do this, and okay, make sure you track your mileage, and just like giving me pointers on, hey, and don't forget to do this, and here's where you go for that, and you got to register. So it was just anybody I sat down and talked to. There was like other little like coffee dates I had, and just tell me
Right.
about this, and what would if I did this, would you be interested in coming along? Or so everybody, and I try to do it too. If somebody asks me if they're interested in getting started, I mean, in a couple weeks, I'm meeting with a gal who's starting, and she just to kind of bounce ideas of where
Mhm.
she's at, how to get started, what to do, and how could you collaborate maybe one day with that person.
Right. Yeah, I think sometimes you can get stuck in your head a little bit about ideas, or even when it comes down to a simple, either it's a social media post or it's a new idea. For me, it's like an idea for a new product. Like, well, man, and you can get like stuck in your head, and it'll spin around there for a long time. But if
Hmm.
you find that a group or a person or people that are of the same mindset, when you get that out, that idea,
Hmm.
and they hear it from that entrepreneurial mindset, and they go, "Oh yeah, well yeah, that makes total sense." Where in your own mind, you're like, "Oh, geez,
I
a little
don't
hesitant on
know.
that. Not sure if I want to do that." But I think there's a
Right.
lot of encouragement that's out there to, because you do have the freedom, and with that freedom comes that fear of this would be awesome, unless it's not,
Right.
unless it's
Exactly.
just really bad idea. But to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, I think is super important. And
Yeah.
even if it's cross, completely different fields,
Yep.
the mindset of an entrepreneur, somebody who's owning their own business, is kind of, it's about expansion. It's about like, oh, I have the freedom to do these things and create and to do. I mean,
Right.
I've seen some of the workout stuff that you put together, and I'm like, that's 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 creative. I wouldn't have thought to do that.
I always tell the girls, I'm like, like the artist has to have a vision. So there's times where I sit at my computer, I'm like, I have no idea. And then when my juices start flowing, I'm like, oh,
Mm,
that's good. And then
yeah.
sometimes I'm like, well, I don't really know if that was hard enough. And they're like, that I'm gonna die. So, but I
You're
want them
not
to,
gonna die.
always be fun, and that's what keeps them coming back. And then they post about it, and
Yeah.
it's like dominoes, just keeps spiraling.
And it sounds like the relationship that you have with your clients, and I think just seeing the pictures on social media and stuff, that group that you have
Mhm.
is like super close knit. Like it's like it's got a family feel. Like, well,
Mhm.
maybe not family. Maybe like you're all going to war at Mansion and Phit together. It's like a brotherhood, sisterhood thing. And I know you involved, like there's a teen program too that's like
Yep.
super awesome that you got going on. But it really, that environment doesn't give me that. and it's not your standard gym, but it
Hmm.
doesn't give that quintessential, maybe outsider's perspective of what a gym is. Because you
Right.
kind of when you think the word gym, you're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep,
Right.
not going
Boot
there.
camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
It
doing that.
it
Yeah.
feels like there is a real cohesion of people that are really there and energetic to uh, whatever their goals happen to be, whatever they want to do.
Right.
Um, and they got each other's back. That's just, I mean, that's the vibe that I get just simply from the pictures that you put out.
Yeah. And I always say it, and I said it earlier, where just because it's my people, I don't want to say, well, they're great and everybody, and they are like, they welcome everybody. And I think like this morning now we had class and the laughing and the goofing around, it's like, some of those girls need that.
Yeah.
Like they've got stuff going on in their life, and to come in and just laugh, even if they're not working that hard, it's just such a feel good. And then, we've done things outside of the gym too. We've
Yeah.
learned that we can't do a lot of things with balls because we're not very good at it, like bowling and golfing, but we,
Good.
yeah, there was some discussion about, we were at the golf course and we were wild and crazy, and I kind of mama beared a little, like, hey, nobody talks about my group like that. Like,
Right.
we are a fun group, and if you don't like it, and it wasn't meant to be. I think I took it like, whoa, don't you talk about my
Right.
my girls like that.
You're the protector. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
I'm the mom. I'm the
Yeah.
mom of my little cubs in there. So yeah, and I have the classes, but I also have one-on-one clients, and some of these clients never ever see each other because now we're on all different times of the day. So when we do these things outside of the gym, it's fun because they are like, oh, I didn't even know you came here, or who are you? And it's great. It's a really a good community.
Yeah. 2020 has been an odd year. I think that may be the kindest I can put it. And when you're in, obviously we're all dealing with what we're dealing with as a group of human beings in this country,
Hmm.
on this planet, in this country, maybe more so, maybe in this state more so.
Yeah.
So we're all dealing with the things that we can't do, the things that got canceled, the things that we really look forward to as far as our extracurriculars, the extra added pressures of how society reacts, and there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of tension. But I think when you are a small business owner, and this has obviously been talked about a lot in the news and the media, and uh, but when you're a small business owner, and for you especially, who has to, I think you had to close it down. I mean, there
Yeah.
was the gyms were closed down. You couldn't have that one-on-one with people or in a group setting. But the ones, and Dan Beck and I talked about this a little bit too. The ones that made it through or will make it through all this are the
Hmm.
ones that are able to innovate, figure out ways to get things done. And I know that you did a lot of that um, during this process, and maybe still are to an effect. But tell me some of the things that you had to do to kind of keep the momentum flowing with your, not only your business, but you're also dealing with clients. And you talked about, I mean, they need this
Yeah.
as part of their life. How did you manage to keep them um, progressing forward and keep your business progressing forward during all this?
Yeah, so I can remember that day, March 23rd, and I
Mm,
was driving there, and I was talking with one of my friends on the phone, and I felt like, I'm like, okay, this is what it is. And my last client came in, and I had to like take her in the back to use the restroom or something because we were trying to like keep it kind of on the down low that I still had a few people in there.
right.
And I like lost it. Like I started crying. I'm like, I just left my full-time job. And I mean, she's a good friend of mine. So she was like, it's okay. It's okay. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I lost it. So the next day I'm like, you know what? The one thing with working all those hours, I got myself out of debt. And that was something I really prided myself on. Like
Mm,
I wanted to be where I didn't have to worry about things. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be okay. And I started to hustle. I'm like, okay, you got to get a step outside of the box. So there's options to virtual train. I mean, my classes were right here in my little office. I had
mm,
some dumbbells at home, and I'm like, if you don't have dumbbells, this is what we're going to use. I called or emailed the news station. I told them what I was doing. I'm like, it's not
mm,
going to hurt. I mean, I had to step out of my comfort zone, and they came all the way to Kadat. They were like, will you come to the gym? We'll do an interview with you. I called the paper. They
mm,
interviewed me, did a little write up on it. It was like, I will hustle when I have, I mean, I always hustle, but I
mm,
always, the one thing when I worked at where I was at working, I always said I got shit done. Like if it was going to be, I had to carry all the heavy boxes, it had to be done. I'm in high heels. I'm doing it. I'm going to pull up my sleeves. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to make it happen. So I did the virtual training, and I had clients come back that I haven't seen in years because they were like, okay, I'm home, I'm ready. And so we would schedule time, and either in the morning or at night. And I actually kept afloat. Like I didn't get the unemployment, I didn't get the grants, nothing. It was like, well, I'm just going to do some projects in the house to kill time.
Right.
And then, just, the the classes, and then just finally went back in May. So I survived. And I know with the virtual classes in the wintertime, I'm going to be able to do those with my clients that travel 30, 40 minutes to come see me, or I get up in the morning and I can't get out of my yard. Well, we're just going to pop on and do a virtual. So, and I actually went through and did a ton more certifications. So I was, able to offer more things to people.
It's so important, and there was a lot of talk about this, especially early on, not early, but kind of when we passed like a month past 15 days to flatten the curve, and we're in like month 7 of that, I think now, or 8. I'm not sure. It all kind of blends together at this point. But there was like this weird call to be lazy, like on a global scale. Like now you're finally being told to sit at home on the couch all the time, and I was like, oh, it's just, it burned me so much. I wanted to post on anybody that was posting. They'd be like, no, this is actually the time when you have the time to do something.
Yeah.
And this is a great time if you weren't doing anything. Now you can skip that fear we talked about at the beginning of going to a gym for the first time. Now you can be in kind of the privacy of your own home and do some virtual training, because I saw that you had jumped on those platforms and we're doing those kind of things. I was like, that's genius, because now you not only can your business continue to thrive and grow, you have time, and you mentioned getting more certifications, which is utilizing all of that time.
Right.
But all the people that couldn't get out, obviously the gym was closed or didn't want to, or maybe didn't like the group setting right away. You had a chance to train those people and keep those people motivated. I think that's fantastic, because nothing pissed me off more. Well, there was, let me rephrase that. There were some things personally that pissed me off more during this whole COVID thing, but that was like, no. You're missing it. You're missing the opportunity that's presented to you, which I think goes to a lot of people who are, trapped in, if they are a gym person, if they are a gym rat, and they close down the box and they go, I got nothing to do now. No, nope. Sorry. I'm just gonna, what does frosting taste like? I'm just gonna sit here and eat some frosting. All the frosting.
All the food you bought in case we ran out of food in one day.
And don't worry, we got enough toilet paper, so we're fine.
Yes.
Still trying to find Clorox wipes to save my life. The struggle is real. But I saw a lot. I heard about a lot of that. People that were active, but some found ways to fill that void, to keep some semi-routine, and were able to adjust, and some just couldn't do it. Like they needed that confines. But to have a trainer like you in a business that can operate as a small business and has the power to be like, well, here's what we're going to do, because I'm the boss, and here's what we're going to do. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I always try to find the positive out of everything and find the good in everyone. And so that was part of it, is like, okay, every day I'm going to get up and try to find a good thing to post, or, do something good. And I always pick one project in my house to do, so I look like I did something at home during the day too. But, or just even like, I'd reach out to my clients if I wasn't seeing them virtually, hey, how you doing? Did you know I have class Saturday morning, or, hey, we're going to meet. We started running, and that was a big part with the running too, for the marathon. We're going for a run. Get outside and do some stuff, go on a hike.
Yeah. I think when you're, and for mental health too, and obviously I'm a huge, I love running. I love getting out, especially moving to Chippewa this summer and being able to see this town and in all of its beauty. I think not only for the physical aspects of it and the results of it, but that mental clarity that you get when you are outside, and whether it's running or whether it's walking or jumping up and down on stuff. Breathing clean air and being by the river, for the mind that can get trapped up in the negativity of what 2020 has been. I think that is amazingly important to get out and be able to do. But there's a lot that can be taken, I think, from that innovation that now you mentioned the opportunity now during the winter when there's 20 feet of snow and you're like
Right.
making it to Cadat. But also that strengthens the relationship between you and your clients because they know that, they need this. Okay, now they know how they can adapt and they can do things at home, whether it's using soup cans or
Right.
whatever you have in the house, or grab a cat, grab a kid, throw them around a little bit, you
Exactly.
know, do what
You
you
got
got
a
to
set of
do.
stairs. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to keep that routine, which I think is
Mhm.
super important for those who are on their journey to whatever it is they want to go. But
Yep.
um, growth, I mean, that's growing the business, growing the brand, and really
Right.
at the core of it, because you're there to serve your clients to be able to take care of them. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. It was, yeah. It was, you know what? We talked about that earlier where there's good times, there's bad times. And that,
Mhm.
unfortunately, the bad time came right away. And I was like, frick, I just
Right out of the
quit
gate.
my job.
Yeah, I know. We launched Captain Coops in November
Yeah.
of last year on Black Friday. We were really excited, and we had gotten into our sixth or seventh salon, so we started doing like major wholesale stuff,
Mhm.
and it was the day after St. Patrick's Day, and I had like 3 stops, and then we had mapped out uh, places that we were going to go. We were going to start expanding out into the northwest quadrant of the state.
Mhm.
We made some touches down in Nashville, so we're going to plan a trip down there. All the things we reinvested back into the company to do some more
Yeah.
product dev. So we were working on new products and starting to do some white label stuff. And then like they shut the salons down. And I mean, Mar, see, remember?
Yeah.
Okay, we're 3.5 months into this thing. We came out and we did much better than I thought, than I expected right out of the gate, and
Mhm.
really we're starting to make some headway. And you're supposed to reinvest in your company. You're supposed to, when
Yeah.
you can, you make improvements. And it was like, oh no, that was mm,
That
things
wasn't
were
the
going
plan.
swimmingly.
Yes.
You know, but again,
Yeah.
that's when you talk about being able to pivot and adjust and kind of like
Mhm.
a forest for the trees whole thing, like you have to be able to step back and say, okay,
Mhm.
what is it currently
Yep.
that I can do that I can control? So we started really pushing some online stuff, for a market that we knew it wasn't going to be huge. We really started to do our marketing a little bit differently, really talk one-on-one about the situation that was at hand. Hey, you're home now, make your beard.
Mhm.
The pandemic beard is a thing, so
Right.
might as well make it look great. Be
Yeah.
you. And then working on some white label products with customers and clients that wanted to do some stuff that we would make, and they would label themselves. But if you can't innovate, if you can't think outside the box like you did during
Yeah.
COVID, and like we had to do, there's a lot of businesses out there that did not survive, and there are some
No.
that are hanging by a thread right now. Oh, I have to put this up here because you getting some love.
Aw,
You're
Alyssa.
amazing for that.
Yay. Thanks, Alyssa. You're amazing.
But yeah, there's a lot to be said about when you are a business owner and you have to be the one that makes the decision, um, making the right one, because you have no plan B, and my plan B is this podcast. So we're
I'm thinking maybe I could get a podcast.
if there is there has been, and I've noticed this, and I've had this discussion with several individuals. This podcast started like a 2 weeks after I got out of radio. I was like,
Mhm.
I can still talk for a living, and I can say fuck. This is amazing. Finally, I feel like I'm in my comfort zone here. But there has definitely been a major surge in the popularity of podcasts. I encourage anybody who is a small business owner to have something, whether that's doing a one-on-one with the client. The live stream stuff. That's just kind of the level that I wanted to move it to. But
Yeah.
I think if for somebody who's you know innovative, I mean, imagine being able to take those client stories that you talked about being posted
Yeah.
on your website, have that person in and let them, I mean, at their comfort, let them tell you about their journey, their story, how you help them, how different elements of their life have, how things have changed in their life because of either the program that they're on, a
Mhm.
change in mindset. Maybe it's something as simple as a motivational thing that you put out, or something that you were working out. I mean, when I post pictures of myself working out, it's really
Mhm.
for myself. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to be like super selfish, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I know if the next day I wake up and I don't scan my stories and I'm like, oh, that's right, you took today off.
Yeah.
Guess what?
You're
Guess what? You're doing 10 today. Happy.
yeah.
So I mean, that's more for
People
me, but
need to know what you're doing.
right. Then I'm still alive.
Yes.
But if you inspire somebody, I mean,
Yeah.
imagine that in audio form where you could have, you know, these stories, and obviously you can link them to your website. If you need any help, what I'm saying, setting up a podcast, just let me know.
I'll let you know. It's on my list. I mean, like I said, there's things that I'm like, I gotta get better with my free time, instead of always working. Like either you say Wednesday afternoons when you're off, you're going to work on a podcast instead of, well, I'm going to go do this or that. So
I'm going to go put new windows on my house or, something else, because
that's
nothing else.
job.
Nothing else going on. I'm just gonna take this window
No.
out, move this wall. There's something I did want to. I know we talked about it before we went on live here, but we talked about because I have a tire in my backyard and it's kind of my daily thing, and I sing to it. It's weird. I'm like, oh, I missed you, and then it kicks my I hate you. So we have like a love-hate relationship. But the whole Mad Shannon thing that came from you and a tire in an alleyway. Which sounds like a country song, but it's not.
It's not.
It's not. No. I mean, surprisingly, it's not.
So I did this. I did it a few times in my backyard. I did it, and then I stopped, and I started back up. So anyway, my brother's a farmer. So I call him one day. I'm like, "You got a tractor tire?" He's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I go to pick it up, and I'm like lifting it up. He's like, "Seriously?" I'm like, if you got a heavier one, we need a heavier one." So I had just like minimal equipment. So my one of my old trainers friend, she had a sled for sale. So I was just like pick things up. I had battle rope, I had a Bosu ball, just stuff that could sit outside. We had some stuff outside, some old things. And so the girls would come over, and almost all these girls are still with me, but we would have workouts in my back alley here. And the neighbor lady was just over yesterday talking about, I'd watch you flip that tire up and down. You make those poor girls run around the block. And so I needed a place to store all my stuff because I couldn't leave it out. So my husband built a little shed. So we have a garage bar where we've had a lot of Halloween parties, and it's called Mad Shannon's Garage Bar. Parties on, parties over.
Nice.
So that's where the Mad Shannon's Phit shed came from. I'm like, we got to keep it all in line with it. So when it was time to like make the business legit, I'm like, that was just, we always called it Mad Shannon's Phit Shed here. So I got to keep it the same and just make it an LLC and give it a tax ID. So the tire's gone, but
tire no stocky.
Yeah.
I was up at the Rockfest grounds the other last week, and there's some big tires, big tires.
Like, oh yeah.
Like, and they were just leaning up against like a post, and I was like, I bet you. And then I tried to move it. I'm like, maybe I'll start with something different. It's a little much.
Yeah.
It's bigger than my backyard. I mean, I'm like, well.
Those are, I mean, I flipped some heavier ones. It's crazy. Once you get them up though, and get them flipping.
Yeah. It's all about, it's gravity and momentum. That's all it is.
Exactly.
So I do want to talk about this a little bit too, because we did mention that, our correspondence happened via the music scene and concerts and stuff many, many years ago. But you have, do you have a number? I mean, do you have like how many shows, how many concerts you've been to? Some people keep track. Some people are like too many to count.
Jenny does a good job of that for me. She usually says, well, I'm at this with this group. You're at this with this group. I just, the one thing I always used to say, this was concert season for us, because it'd be, once a month, a couple times a month, we'd be traveling all over, going to see stuff. So she asked if I wanted to go over to Oshkosh here at the end of the month and do the drive-in thing. I'm like, it's just not the same. We like to be right in the front row and all that. So too many to count. I was thinking today in my head what we maybe talk about, but the very first concert I ever went to was after one of my bodybuilding comps, and it was Nickelback was the headliner, Breaking Benjamin, Sick Puppies, and Shinedown. And we sat like way up in the nosebleeds, but I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this all the time. So
that's a pretty spectacular ticket right there. I mean, that's I mean, and Shinedown was the opener. Man, look at where those boys are now.
I know. I think of that. I'm like, wow, when we first saw them, they were like the openers. And then I think Breaking Benjamin had their little breakup right after that. Didn't they have a little? Yeah. So there's been a lot of concerts.
I've stood up on many a stage and introduced bands, and you and Jenny were standing right there front and center. Like, shut up and get the band out here. I'm tired of listening to you talk about go get a beer. Like, shut up, just let me go. And, you've had a chance over obviously the course of going to many concerts, you've interacted with a lot of bands. You have, you've made friends with some of the guys, the Pop People Boys, and you go way back. Seems like and you can kind of always tell when bands find like this area as like a second home. I hear that a lot from art, like that region or even the state of Wisconsin, like that always feels like my second home. I think as they meet us and they're like, yeah, we could hang.
Yeah.
We can hang out. Like we could totally be cool kicking it. Yeah. You go to those major metropolitan areas, they're like, man, let's get me on the bus, get me out to a farm field somewhere.
Yeah.
Small venue. Let me live my life.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. We've done quite a few, meet and greets. The one I think we with the pop and we went to Will Rock Fest. They don't even have it anymore. So it was like this. Yeah. And we were standing at one of the radio stations booths and they were like, all right, I'm standing there and they're like, if you want to win tickets to meet Pop Evil, you're going to have to arm wrestle Helga here. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. And Jenny's like, you were going to do this. Well, I did it. And we won the backstage or the tickets to get back there. It was like the craziest story of how it happened. So, but then that we were like, is it us? Because we went to band camp the year before and then it never happened again. And we're like, then Will Rock didn't happen. We're like, maybe it's us. Maybe we should stop going to Rock Fest.
Oh, you got to keep coming. Got to keep coming to see me.
We will.
Yeah, but there's, I think all this kind of ties nicely into a little bow here as we approach about an hour. Those things, those releases, those happy moments. You talk about concerts, and some people find it in different places, and a lot of the things that people didn't have the ability to do. This circles back into that mental health thing and filling that void. I think, for me personally, and I know for you, and the outlet being something fitness, something health, something kind of getting out and self-improvement on whatever level that is, whether it's reading a book about entrepreneurship, how can I market better? How can I, establish this product or what is this idea or talking to other entrepreneurs. I think utilizing the technologies that are out there, we talk about doing virtual stuff, but getting out and either running, going to the gym, going to your gym, flipping tires, that is it doesn't, like, to the layperson, doesn't really sound as fun as going to a concert.
Right.
Doesn't. It sounds horrible. Like who are you masochistic people that want to punish me instead of having me go have fun? But when you start to feel bad when you miss something, it's like when you miss a concert that comes to town.
Yeah.
Like, man, by the way, nobody is going to miss a concert that comes to town next year. They're going to be like, no, I don't even care if it's a Tuesday night. I'm going to that show because I remember what it felt like to not have them.
That's right.
But when you feel that if you take a day off, or you don't push as hard as you can, or you don't run as far, or you don't do the things that that you can do, like if you're consistent enough with it, and the next day you feel that withdrawal, you feel that like, you miss something. Yeah. So it really, it's the mentality of, if you can go out and kind of fill the voids of things that you're missing out on with something that's outdoors, and it could be walking through the leaves, going to the apple orchard, running around and playing with the kids if you got them, or the dog, but getting out and being active. I think that is like the biggest mental clarity, clear the clutter, straighten the wires out a little bit because of all the things that have been going on this year. And you're offering obviously a lot of those things at the Phit Shed up there. So kudos to you for keeping your people sane, because some people have lost it. Some people have lost it.
Yep.
And if you missed any of them, scroll through your Facebook for like a minute and you'll be like, oh, lost their shit.
Yep.
You know what they need? They need to go to the Phit Shed and get their ass kicked for about an hour, and they'll feel better. One thing I did want to touch on really quick, because I know I mentioned it briefly, but I want to touch on it. But you did start a program for teens, which I think is super fantastic. I think learning myself, I know your journey, started in your 20s. I want to say lucky enough to like late 20s, early 30s, when I realized like I put on more weight than my then wife when our child was born. I'm like, you mean it doesn't just wait, like yours just came off? Like, I don't understand why I'm here at like 235 and it's not working out.
Okay. I'm trying everything and it's not
I'm
working.
I'm
Yeah.
standing, I'm rocking up off the couch. I feel like that's a workout. It felt like a workout.
I bought the ab trainer that shocks
I just
you.
I actually just used the dog collar that we
Yeah.
that myself. I mean, this has got to be the same premise, right?
Right.
But seeing starting something at that age,
Mhm.
especially now,
Yeah.
I think when we were growing up and working on it, and don't say you weren't athletic as a kid. Working on a farm is the hardest fucking job there is. I
Yeah.
did it for 2 summers growing up, and I'm like, this is harder than two. I mean, I played football for 4 years, and I played every sport that there was. I was super fit, super healthy. Worked on a farm for 2 summers. I'm like, this is harder than that is. This is harder
Yeah.
than 2 days, gym, all that stuff. But
Exactly.
starting now, when the options are obviously still there,
Mhm.
but when we're kind of living in a very tech world, a lot of sit down and just stare at a screen and
Yeah.
being very sedentary, but to offer a program for kids that I know you make super fun. That's got to
Yeah.
be they're having a blast,
Yeah.
but really starting at that age to start to do the things that were implemented in your life when you were,
Yeah.
in your 20s, and for me in my 30s, like this just needs to be kind of a part of who you are,
Yeah.
because this will help you live a longer life.
Yeah. And that was the one thing with them too, is like you can figure out how you want to exercise. I mean, you can
Mm.
be a runner, you can be a walker, whatever it is. It's like workouts are a lot of different things. It's not
Yep.
just weightlifting, it's not just CrossFit, it's not just gymnastics. There's a lot of different ways to move. And I think for them, I had a really good time with the kids this summer, and I actually have a family that comes in twice a week to see me now. They're homeschooled, and we're having a ton of fun with that. So
Awesome.
just to see them and what they want to do, and they're always like, "It's an hour, we're done." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I kind of got to eat lunch." So yeah, sorry.
Gotta fuel the fire here. Gotta fuel the
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah. So it
Mm.
was. I don't even. It was again thinking outside the box. What can I do? What can I put on my schedule? The kids are home, and they were great. They were all great kids. I was a little nervous because I didn't know. I don't have kids myself,
Mhm.
so I was like, okay, this is either going to go really good or it's not going to go good at all. And it was
Right.
it was great. And they all want to do something next summer. We tried to keep it through the fall, but it's really hard, if they're in sports or school. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what, just if in the winter, dead of winter on a Saturday, they want to do it, I'm open to doing it again. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's again the innovation of it, and then also the long term effects of starting somebody with a mindset that this needs to be, in whatever aspect that it
yeah,
is all the different aspects of exercise that you talked about, something, and
yeah,
then the corresponding nutrition that goes along with it, you know,
right, right,
something, hopefully that can get them through, uh, give them a starting platform for when they do get into their 20s, or
yeah.
when they get to their 30s and they go, wow, why isn't all this just falling off? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Uh,
I mean, you
they can
can't
go, oh
only
yeah,
eat
that's right.
pizza 3 times
If
a
I
day. I don't.
no, go ahead. Like, if you leave it on the stove and it gets like room temperature, that's when it's the best. Don't you, like, you can have it. Wait,
Yes.
that's not,
That's
not
not.
supposed to do that. Apparently that's bad.
No, that's not
But
good.
when you have it built into you, move more,
Hmm.
and not necessarily eat less, but eat better.
Eat
Like,
better, exactly.
the scale balances a little bit, and I mean that in this kind of scale, not in the kind that you stand on. It's
Right, right.
but
Yeah.
at an impressionable young age, I think that's super important and a super cool thing that you did. But um,
Thanks.
first and foremost, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day. I know your schedule's hectic, and I'm glad I got to catch you. You probably got 25 projects you're about to tackle at this time. Like, oh no, I'm done with that. I got to start my next thing. Um, but also want to let people know that they can connect with you, give them the website, let people know where they can jump on and find out more about what you're doing, and come and check out your programs.
Sure. So my website's www.madshannonsfitshed.us.
Mhm.
Facebook page, Mad Shannon's Fit Shed, and we're on Instagram under Mad Shannon's Fit Shed.
Make sure you follow. A lot of inspirational stuff going on there. Shannon, thank you again. Let's run Chippewa Falls sometime before it's
Hashtag run Chippewa.
hashtag run Chippewa Falls, and before we have to snowshoe through Chippewa
Yeah.
Falls, which is apparently sooner than later. To everybody that joined in, all the watchers, hi Lori. Lori Anderson says hi. Alyssa obviously jumped on there, giving you some shout outs and stuff. To everybody who watched the live stream, thank you so much. The video will be available on YouTube and on Twitch very shortly here, and the podcast will drop tomorrow on all podcast platforms. You can check that out. So make sure you listen. A lot of good content on here for fitness, for entrepreneurship, for concert goers. Now you know how to get backstage to meet your favorite band. You just got to arm wrestle Bertha.
Helga.
I mean,
Helga.
they're probably sisters. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
Awesome. Shannon, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and keep doing what you're doing because you're kicking its ass.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.